Well, I'm the best corner in the game. What a run. Marshawn Lynch. Get off me.
DK. What's up? Hey, it's John Schneider with Seattle Seahawks.
That's the result you want.
This offense, just in general. I mean, you had
To
a
me,
guy
just
like
watching
that.
his film, he seems more of a back.
Just the presence he's got in that pocket, the way he throws the football. Rust days, man. All the scrutiny that line was under.
This Monday night's big.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hawks Zone Rundown. I'm R-Mac. That's B Rice. We're coming at you at a time where we're going to touch on a couple of the new signings this week in the trenches for the Hawks. And then we're going to jump into a mock draft that we know we gave you guys one prior to free agency. And then we said, you know what, when things settle down, when free agency just the whole frenzy gets underway and under control and the pieces fall, we're going to come back at you and bring you another mock. So we're kind of excited about it because now we sort of know where we're sitting with a lot of the guys that we brought in and we signed, and even the quarterback situation, man, we're looking at things, just a little differently. So that's going to come on the second half of the show. But first off, before we get into anything, guys, if you like what you're hearing, do us a huge favor, head down there to that subscribe button and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're hearing, and hit the like button and the notification button so you're not missing any future episodes. Really helps us out. And again, we can't say enough how much we appreciate the support. So with that being said, B Rice, what's going on, man?
No, honestly, man, there's not a whole heck of a lot going on. The Seahawks made a couple moves this week.
Right.
Brought in a couple different players. And again, like, this is value time in free agency, getting the one-year deal guys that you think can fill some holes just before the draft comes around. So pro days obviously are starting up. So I've been kind of following that and some of the other stuff that's just kind of kicking around the NFL right now.
Yeah. Let's get into the Bears are basically telling everybody that stop hitting the phone lines, that we are not trading that first round pick. Obviously, Justin Fields out the door. So you thought maybe it was a little clearer, but still people are calling and seeing what they want to do. What's your take now with the Bears?
I think the Bears now they've narrowed in on what they're doing. They moved off Fields. They're taking a quarterback. You look at like who was out at the USC Pro Day. Their newly acquired receiver Keenan Allen was out there in his Chicago Bears gear to meet Caleb Williams, and I think the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams. I honestly don't see it any other way. They could shock us, but I truly think they're going to go with Caleb Williams. So really it's up to see what the Commanders are going to do, who they're going to take, whether it's Drake May, whether it's Jaden Daniels, who are they going to go with at that number 2 spot, and then kind of see where the chips fall. Like, the Cardinals are open to trading the 4th round pick because they know there's teams that want to come up now. So honestly, man, it's going to be that first 6 picks are going to be really interesting in this draft because somebody that's not in there right now is going to make a move in to get a quarterback. And I think that quarterback that they're going to move into is going to be for J.J. McCarthy. Apparently his pro day today, he lit it up. He made a Zach Wilson type throw. So we'll be interested in to see how that kind of plays out going forward here because we get closer to the draft coming up.
Yeah, like that will be interesting. I think you're right. I think they got it. They're going to take Caleb. I think he's one of those guys that I just don't think you pass up on him. And there's question marks about the other guys, as far as Drake May is concerned, or Jaden Daniels and all this other kind of stuff. And that's why we love the draft, man, because there's always surprises. There's always things that come up that you don't expect, and especially with our Hawks, we never know if they're going to sit where they're going to sit. That's something we're going to get into in a bit here in the show. But when you're sitting at number 16, and we've talked about it for a long time, kind of a tough spot to sit in, sort of a no man's land spot. You're missing out on a lot of the top guys, but if there's a guy there for you, and the Hawks history is just, they usually trade down and try to accumulate, and especially since we don't have a second rounder. But so that'll be interesting. And then other news, the new rule coming into play with the drop tackle, man. What's your take on that? How's that going to change things, affect the game here now moving forward with that new rule in play?
Man, that is pissing off a lot of players. It looks
Yeah.
like this drop tackle thing. Like, I don't know. Like for me, like you and me both played ball,
Yeah.
and I, played quarterback. You played receiver and running back and whatnot. But like, I don't know. What are we going to just put them in flags now at this point? Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, you're taking everything out. Like, you have an area between the shoulders and the knees to hit.
Yeah.
Well, now if I'm chasing a guy, I couldn't grab him from the horse collar and pull him down. Okay, you took that rule out.
Sure.
Now they've got this drop tackle. Well, what do you want to do on a defense? Like you look at Derrick Henry, for example, and he's
Yeah.
running down the field. And you're asking a small safety to take him down. You want that small safety to take him on head on? Not likely going to have a good outcome. The guy tackles him from behind and drops his hips, as they're calling it, the hip drop tackle. Like, I don't know, man. It's getting so ticky-tacky on everything. Like the game is a violent game.
Right.
It is a gladiator game. That is what it has been from day one. The fact that you cannot do that anymore, they're trying to make that something you can't, like, I'm sorry, but like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one, man. I mean, I think, with when all the concussion thing came to the forefront and people were like, screaming for, extra protection and just certain rules to be brought in. But, you definitely need a balance, man. Like it's gone too far the other way. Like you said, 2028, the Olympics is bringing in, introducing flag football and the growth of that game, which is great. But we still love NFL football for what it was. Now, I'm not an advocate of headshots and the way you look at film back in the day and you're like, wow, like yeah, it's violent and it's still a violent game, but you still have to have that balance. Like you said, it's pissing a lot of people off. What are DBs going to do? What are defensive players going to do? The whole quarterback thing for the last few years, like you can't even lay a finger on these guys, and that's frustrating enough, man. So the tough thing is, it's like we sort of just roll with the rules. It's like we love the game so much, and we get frustrated. And the NFL, it's almost like they know it, and but at some point there's got to be a breaking point. You know what I mean?
Well, look at this. So I'm just, looking around. The NFLPA put out a statement. So that's the Players Association.
Right.
This is the players talking. The players oppose any attempt by the NFL to implement a rule prohibiting a swivel hip drop tackle. While the NFLPA remains committed to improvements to our game with the health and safety in mind, we cannot support a rule change that causes confusion for us as players, for coaches, for officials, and especially the fans. We call on the NFL again to reconsider implementing this rule. So when the players, the guys that are actually out on the field giving up their bodies, are saying, this is not something we want, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
NFL, open up your ears and listen for once, because it took you forever to listen about concussions when the players asked about that. And now you're doing the opposite again. You're not listening to what the players are telling you.
Right.
Because all you're going to do is you look at anything now. You take out the horse collar tackle. Now something else becomes an issue. You take out the headshot down the field. Now knee injuries go up. Like
Right.
every time you try and correct something in football, there is an obvious thing that comes up that's the next thing that's going to be the big injury bug. You take this out, now we're going to have another thing that's going to come up. And eventually, like I said, we're going to be playing this game in bloody flags.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And I think too, it's like you want to prevent injuries, but it's almost like there's guys sitting around a round table and they're just coming up with ideas, and not like you said, you take a headshot out, now a knee hurt. Like players will figure out a way around it, but not always for the best outcome. And then all of a sudden we're seeing injuries happen over here now, or it's just the headshot stuff had to go. That stuff had to go. But the other stuff, man, like you can't prevent injuries. Like this is I haven't pulled up the stats, but guys still are getting hurt all the time. It's a physical game. You got guys with some of the best athletes in the world flying around 100 miles an hour, hitting. You can't prevent it, man. And if you do, then it's just going to be like the freaking Pro Bowl. Like it's either that or throw flags on guys.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, there will be some breaking point. Like you said, there was a statement there by the players saying, "No, look, enough is enough." Because at the end of the day, as big of a machine that the NFL is, there becomes a breaking point where people are just like, "Wait a second here." Like, no, we have to, it's almost like every year there's some new rule that tries to say, hey, we're looking out for the players, and here's a safety thing and safety this and safety that. And at the end of the day, it's just it's frustrating, man. I'm with you. So hopefully that they're heard here, and yeah, because it's just getting too much. It's too much, man. Like if you're a DB, if you're a defensive player, like you said, like the one line you just said, causing confusion. I mean, if I'm a guy like now, what can I even do? You know, so that's the biggest craziness of the whole thing. So hopefully things just stop with this nonsense, man. Just get it, have a balance is all I'm saying.
I agree with you, man, but it's
Yeah,
getting scary.
it is getting scary, man. Let's move on, man. Let's kind of chop into there's one more thing you want to touch on
There's
before
one
we
more thing. So
yeah.
just breaking as of now, it looks like the Chiefs kind of going through an interesting phase this offseason after winning the Super Bowl. Obviously, as we know, guys always want to get paid. So the Chiefs have now just finalizing the final bit of their trade to send L'Jarius Sneed, their top corner,
Mm,
to the Tennessee Titans.
wow.
So he is getting apparently, as Jordan Schultz of Bleacher Report kind of has got the scoop on it so far, is it is going to be 19. His new contract in Tennessee will be 19 million a year over 4 years, so 55 million guaranteed for a corner.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's kind of interesting considering, you look at our situation in Seattle here, we're still dealing with corners on rookie deals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of brings you flashbacks of when we went through the Richard Sherman and that whole phase way back when. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of breaking news that just kind of occurred.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's the NFL, man. And that's why, we've talked about how the Hawks are trying to set up for, 25, 26, because all of a sudden, you have a short window in the NFL, and that's what teams have to, or fans have to realize. And that's what when you look at, like, I mean, obviously, but you look at that Patriots run of
Hmm.
greatness, and obviously different players you know, came in and left and all this, and there was, the two constants, right, as we know, is with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. But that just goes to show you that love him or hate him, how great that run is. And, that's what they're trying to do in Kansas City with Patty Mahomes, right? You look at it and be like, hey, you lost Cheetah. And now, Kelsey's getting older. He'll be back next year. But, and they had a great defense this year. And that was the thing. And now, can you keep that together? And can you keep trying to win? And that is not an easy thing in today's game. So that's going to be an interesting thing. Like you said, guys are going to want to get paid. It's not just about winning football games. You got to go get paid. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So far, they've been maintaining a nice little run here, a nice dynasty here for the Chiefs, and we'll see what happens in the next 2 years with them, man. But yeah, man, moving forward, let's get in some Hawks. Just couple things. Obviously, we're gonna dive into some of the trenches, right? But you got a guy like Johnathan Hankins signing to just fill that nose tackle position and really kind of set it up there for Mike McDonald's defense. 320-pound beast right in the middle. Obviously played for New York, Indy, the Raiders, and most recently Dallas. So he's a veteran. He's been around, but just a nice big piece. And we're gonna touch on the draft. But if you look at the draft and you look at some of the guys that are, you know, prospects and highly touted dudes, just athletic but a little undersized, right? You're looking at the guys that they might say be at that position. So you bring a guy like this in, they're not a dime a dozen kind of guys. What's your take on that signing for the Hawks?
I honestly really like the Hankins signing. Seattle, especially with the defense they're running now, like we had Al Woods. Al Woods was phenomenal. They moved off of him. Jarren Reed, the problem we ran into last year is you didn't have that big guy. Like
Yeah,
essentially Hankins is coming in to replace Mario Edwards. Well, Mario Edwards was playing at 280, which is the same as Jones.
right.
Williams and Reed are both like, around 300, as is Cam Young. Now you bring in a guy that's 320.
Yeah,
Like you have a guy that is going to eat up blocks. He obviously is familiar with kind of, the DC in Aiden Dirty, who's the new DC for the Seattle Seahawks. So To me, this also is like it's also a bad sign that maybe Cameron Young didn't pan out like they thought he was going to. He didn't obviously see a lot of snaps last year.
Right.
So we'll see. It's a 1 year deal. It's not huge. Like it's kind of the guy's 32. You're not taking a huge risk with bringing him in, but he fits a role. And if you give him the same kind of snaps you gave Mario Edwards, which weren't a lot, it wasn't overly taxing. He comes in on early down, stuffs the run, get him off the field, and then you go with, Jarren Reed. And this also, again, helps Jarren Reed out because now he's not having to play 80%, 75% of the snaps.
Yeah.
He gets to take some, and you get a better, Jarren Reed throughout the season. So, no, I thought it was a good signing. I kind of figured this was going to be, again, this is what the time of the free agency is. It's value signing time. So you go out and get Johnathan Hankins, who fills a role for you. So now going into the draft, you're not stressed to find a 320-pound run-stopping defensive tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. So and they got some pieces to work with now, which is interesting. You have Hankins there. Maybe we'll go through the draft, but maybe you get another guy. But I think like you and I were discussing that more of their focus is probably going to be on that O line to really kind of solidify that interior because people forget you got Nwosu coming back on the outside. You got say in the middle, right? You got Trey in there and Jarren and now you got a run stopper, and they just got some pieces. So you still got some depth there. Maybe they add a guy. We'll see. But moving over to the O line real quick. Obviously we talked about the George Fant signing. They brought in another guard. What do you know about the signing there?
Now I'm trying to remember his name.
Yeah.
Hold on, give me a second. I'll find his name.
Tremaine Akram.
Akram, that's what it was.
Right.
Thank you. Again, rotational guard. Like he's not anything special. I don't look at him as he's a depth signing. Like he's
depth. Yeah.
If he is in our starting lineup, there is a massive problem. We
sure.
screwed up in the draft somewhere, and I don't know. I just again, depth. You're getting a backup guard,
For
like
sure,
a guy that
for
you're
sure.
filling. He's a body player. Like if he has to come in and play any meaningful snaps, like we're looking at, okay, did we draft somebody and they got hurt? There's a whole bunch of things with it. And again, this is just a guy that's coming in to fill a role. Be there in case somebody slips up. If he has to play a game, not too bad. But if he's playing multiple games, and we've seriously had a screw up somewhere in this offseason that we've had to rely on a guy that was taken in the 7th round, and he's made one start in 31 appearances over 4 seasons. He's only got 96 NFL snaps. That's not exactly, if you played 4 years, that's not exactly a great total. Like the average NFL game's 40 snaps for an offense. So he's played literally more than like 2 games.
Yeah, he's
4
a
years.
He's depth piece, and you look at there's question marks with Abe Lucas, and then we're gonna look at that, but you got the George Fant signing coming in, and he had a pretty good year last year, so. The nice thing about him is that if Lucas is in trouble, you're not going out and signing a 40-year-old Jason Peters off the couch, this time around. You can have somebody in there, and then if they're both healthy, then we'll see. He slides over, whatever. You got Olu, you got Nick Harris. So there's some guys, there's some depth to work up, but for sure, like we're discussing with Rob last episode that if there's somebody there that they like at 16 or something like that, like it could be guard for sure. I mean, especially now that, and we're going to look at that in our mock. Obviously, we talked about Sam Howell already. You and me were like 100% convinced that they were going to take QB. I still think they could. We'll look at it, but I think it's lower on the priority list. It really is. I think they got it. They got to fill that. They got to take care of the trenches and add depth and just really say, hey, we got to start with protecting the interior there, and that's the biggest thing when you look around this team. And we'll discuss as we go through the mock, but obviously we've discussed it. Like we filled the linebacker room, really, really nicely right now. And then not to say they won't take a guy. The safety's looking a lot better, compared to before and 100%. After. So now you're like, well, what are the biggest concerns, right? And you're looking at that interior on the O line.
100%. Like you look like they signed Kayvon Wallace, who
Right.
Again, he's that third safety. So now you're going with Rayshawn Jenkins, Julian Love, and Kayvon Wallace. Kayvon Wallace is a young player. And,
Oh,
they tried to get him apparently when he was with the Eagles, who originally took him. Um, he made 5 starts last season for Arizona and then 7 more with Tennessee when he got claimed off the waivers. Like, he's bounced around. Um, I think he fits an interesting role. I think he fits, you know, speaking of like just off kind of a little bit off topic here, but you look at the safety room and what they're doing with it. So you got Rayshawn Jenkins, you got Julian Love, you've got now Kayvon Wallace, and we got Kobe Bryant, we got some of these. What they're trying to do, I kind of want to make a reference here that you might appreciate because I know you're an athletics fan. They're kind of moneyballing the safety room in a way to make Kyle Hamilton. They
right.
can't get Kyle Hamilton from Baltimore, who was a Swiss Army knife for Mike McDonald there. So what they're doing is they're bringing in guys that have certain qualities that are like Kyle Hamilton and are able to do things. So they're going to, I think, take a situation where we can't get the player, but we're going to reconstruct him through 3 different safeties in our scheme.
Right.
You're going to get Kayvon Wallace playing in the box or Rayshawn Jenkins and Julian Love. And when they do their 3 safety look, you're going to get guys moving around. They may not always be in the same spot to recreate that presence in that defense of what Kyle Hamilton is. They're just going to do it a different way.
Yeah, man, the Moneyball reference is interesting. I mean, I got my own thoughts on the whole Moneyball thing, but I mean, I like that, especially because first of all, you're not paying huge money for your safety room,
No.
right? And that's the thing. And I like Jenkins. Like, I think he's gonna ball out for us. But like you said, to try to get certain intangibles working together to sort of recreate something, that one player isn't doing, but a couple other guys are doing. This guy's bringing a trade in, that guy's bringing a trade in, and we'll see how that works out. But the thing is that you're not dropping a ton of money at that safety room. And that's the biggest thing. Like you said, you brought something up, I think, a few pods ago. Like, can you name the safeties on the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, yeah, maybe if you're a diehard.
Yeah.
But the average guy, probably not, right? And so what's that saying? Well, they just won a Super Bowl. And I know there was that other article like, well, hey, you don't need a star receiver. It was like, we had Patrick Mahomes, right? So let's not go too far. But as far as the safety is concerned, like you said, it's just you don't need to do that anymore. So, and obviously it was evident that we got rid of our big money safety guys. Obviously, there's other factors that came along with that, age and performance, but they were just making too much money at the end of the day, right? So, I really like what they've done, both linebacker situation and both safeties. Both safety room and linebacker room. Like I'm really excited. And obviously our corner room is deep and really ready to go. And like you and I talked about with Reek, it's like, hey man, here's a guy that gets almost a fresh start under a new system. And hey, let's tweak your game, man, because you got the tools. And so we can get you going again. Last year was just a weird year. It's all good. So yeah, I'm excited. Just what they've done in free agency, and then when they got to the bargain hunts, it just almost just made sense what they were doing. And now it's like, okay, we sort of got pieces set kind of everywhere. And if you're John and that group, you think you got to feel confident in the direction you are now going into the draft.
Well, 100%. And I look at the offseason now as a whole, just before we jump on to our O-line trenches look here. But there's part of me that wonders if, after Mike McDonald got hired, Jody Allen, and this is obviously not a true factor, I'm just speculating here. Like Jody Allen, Burt Cole, John Schneider, Mike McDonald all got in a room and said, hey, look, we're going to lock this door. This doesn't leave here, but we're kicking the can to 2025, 2026, and we're really going to be able to build a contending team. We're going to make these cuts. We're going to eat the money. Like you look at the fact they took Jamal Adams on the chin this year to clear up all that space for next year, and how much money will slowly come off the books. Like Geno next year will probably not be on the roster.
Right.
They're probably going to have another quarterback with Sam Howell or whatever it is. And you're going to see this kind of transition from, okay, we're getting all these bad contracts that we've had on the books off this team, and now we're going to start building for the future. I still think the identity of the Seahawks, tough, pound the football, those are still going to be identities of the Seattle team. But I think it'll be interesting to see how they evaluate and where they draft players going forward with
Right.
John and with Mike McDonald and how that all kind of shapes up. So that's kind of something that I've just kind of been looking at as this offseason now as a whole is like we're filling gaps, we're doing these things, we're going to be a competitive team. I think they're actually in a better spot maybe a little bit than they are at the end of last season with some of these guys they've added.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how this draft all plays out.
Yeah, the drafts can be interesting. So we're gonna dive into that in a bit, but let's just go over a few we're kind of focusing today on the O-line trenches because obviously we just like we just said, that's kind of our biggest need right now. So let's go down a couple of guys that you might think could be on their board day one for the if you're sitting there, if you stay at number 16
I'm
and
saying at number
who are
16.
who are a couple of the guys that you like or one guy that you like in day one here.
So I like, and again, this is where it'll be very interesting with what's going on with Abe Lucas, but uh Troy Fantanua from Washington, I really like him. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Fuega from Oregon State. Both are
yep,
tackles. I like Jared Verse. I think he's another good, player. I like where is he? Oh, Chop Robinson from Penn State. I
yeah.
think he's another, and Darius Robinson from Missouri. I think both of them are interesting edge players. I think edge is now more of a need because here's the thing I find interesting about Darrell Taylor. And I know we're kind of going a little off, but it kind of ties into this. If Seattle's there and a Chop or Darius Robinson is there and a good edge player, Jared Verse, and they take him, I would not be surprised if they are not shipping Darrell Taylor out because there is no guaranteed money connected to his contract.
That's right.
Sign him to that extension. I think he's a very playable trade piece for them in this draft to maybe get a pick this year or allow them to maneuver a little bit because he's a young edge rusher still, but he just
Yeah.
hasn't ever materialized here. So, those are a couple of guys. When it comes to guard, let me just have a look at the guards. Like you've got, go. Guard wise, Christian Haynes. I like Christian Mahanagini from Boston College. The one that's really interesting to me, and he's got some athletic limitations. He's not the most athletic guard. Is Cooper Beebe. And he's a later round guy.
Yeah.
But I really do like his game. And then Zach Zinter. Again, Zach Zinter hadn't broken his leg. He would be in the top 2 rounds for sure.
So maybe that's a guy you might look at later. I mean,
100%.
Which other teams might too, because like you said, before he broke his leg, he would have been a lot higher. So it's one of those things where maybe you take a flyer on a guy like that, right? So
well, and I'm looking at Rob. So Rob Staten, our buddy's got a very good horizontal board that he does, big board.
Yep.
And he talks about blue chip players and then legit round ones and would take in round 1 and then round 2, 3, and 4. He does not have a guard in the first 3 categories I just listed.
Right.
He's got tackles and like Fuega, Fantuna, Latinum, Mims, like those guys are, he would say legit round 1. And then he's got Tyler Guyton, Joe Alt, and Fashuana from Penn State as would take in round 1. Some of those guys could be right tackle, go to guard kind of players. Like Troy Fatuano from Washington, he could easily slide into guard.
Yeah.
I don't know. And, we had Rob on. He was talking about Kirkland from Washington when they kicked him in from tackle to guard. And I remember that because I'm a big Huskies fan. And he played phenomenally well there. He had back issues. He didn't really have knee issues. And that's the one thing for me with Abe Lucas that's so worrisome is this knee issue like chronic or degenerative where it's just going to get worse and worse no matter what you do for it, it's just going to get worse and worse. So it doesn't matter if you kick him into guard. Yes, he may not have to kick step, but he's now playing inside and has to have more leverage from his legs to push. Is that going to cause more of a problem? So, it's going to be really interesting. We're going to play with this in the mock draft, and I'm going to see if I can get us kind of both things here. But, what are some guys you're looking at, man?
I mean, Zach Zinter was a guy, obviously, like just intriguing. Barton out of Duke, what do you know about him? I mean, I like the fact that he didn't allow many sacks, right? Just looking at his statistics, great run blocker, and he plays with a little nastiness with them, right? So I always like that with anybody on the field. Like, that's no, he's not a guard, but when you look at Witherspoon and his nastiness, you know what I mean? So anybody, especially when you're playing in the trenches, you just know that, you know what, this guy's a baller, and he's just got that built in him. So, that guy's and he's athletic. So that would be a guy that just kind of differentiates from some of the guys you brought up, so that's a guy that I like, but he's also projected that he could be in
Guard
some
center
people's
type,
mind,
yeah.
guard center, and yeah, so that could be an interesting guard for me. Yeah, so why don't we on the other side, we're gonna get ready for this mock draft. So it's our post free agency mock coming up right after this. Guys, welcome back. All right, we're ready to get right into it here with our mock draft. And so we're gonna jump into it. Round one. Obviously, you guys know by now we got that number 16 pick, and trades can happen. So B Rice, let's kick this thing off and have some fun.
Yeah, so last time we did this, guys, we used PFF's simulator. This time we're using sportsskita.com, which is done by Tony Pauline, NFL beat writer, scout guy. He does some really good stuff, draft expert. So I actually tend to like this format. It's prompts trades. So we'll get this started. We'll go normal speed, 7 rounds, and see what kind of Seahawk team we can build out of this.
Right.
So there you go.
So there you go, Jane Daniels, the Bears. You got kind of the usual suspects.
Raiders trade up into 6.
All
after this plays out, Ryan, we'll go back and look.
Yeah, we'll go back and look. Just kind of look.
All right, so here we go. We have 2 offers given to us. So we got pick 24 and pick 56. That gives us a second rounder.
Yep.
Or we can take Miami's pick 21 and pick 55, but they want our pick 118.
Right. So you look at that. What do you want to do? I mean,
I kind of like not having to give up a second pick. The Dallas is kind of more appealing to me, and it's only 1 pick difference in like 2 picks in the first round. Not a big deal, but 1 pick difference, but we're not giving up 2. So we'll take the Dallas pick. We'll move down.
Okay, so it gives us a second round pick. So now who are you looking at here? Who do you think?
Well, basically following this board.
I mean, there's Troy.
Okay, so here we go. We got, we're not going to trade, just so everyone knows, we're not going to do any future picks into the next year. So based on this, Cleveland wants to move up. I'm not going to take that. We're going to reject that. No. So just trying to go back, everyone. So Jaden Daniels, in this world, he went number 1 to Chicago.
Sure.
Caleb Williams went 2. Marvin Harrison went 3. So New England passed on a quarterback.
Yeah.
Cardinals stayed at 4. Took
another wide out.
Nabes.
Yep.
There's one of our tackles that we talked about.
Right.
Bashuana went. Then here you go. Here's your first trade in. And remember how I said in the earlier part of this episode that I figured there were going to be teams that would want to trade into that top 6 range. There you go.
And they got May.
They went in and got May. Alt went. Dallas Turner, Rome Dunze, Mitchell, Chop Robinson, who we talked about, went to Minnesota.
So McCarthy's still on the board.
McCarthy is still on the board. Yeah, he is.
Which is interesting here, but.
Right. Brock Bowers went to, the Colts. So where our pick was at 16, Dallas trades in to replace Tyrone Smith. They take Arius Mims there. And looking at it, Newton went, Kool-Aid.
Byron Murphy went. And the funny thing, you talk about, you really think JJ won't be there. Now, if he was at, so. if this, obviously this is a mock simulator. If in the real world, JJ's sitting there at 24, do you take him? Because we are in this scenario right here. Do you take him? Does John Schneider like him? And that's the tough part.
That's the tough question right now.
No. Maybe they did. He's not even a thought. We brought up Quinn Ewers with Rob last episode, and that could be a situation where we're all throwing to these quarterbacks, and he's just so set on this kid next year. And that's why he's like, hey, we can just sit back and we're good with Gino, we're good with Sam Howell, and we'll let it play out. Now, I know you're looking at this the guard out of Washington. So I mean, is what
So the reason why I'm looking at the guard out of Washington here in Fantuanu is because
yeah,
he can play guard year one. So say Abe Lucas plays
right,
this year, he can slide in and play guard.
exactly.
Abe Lucas retires, he then can kick out to right tackle. We get a little bit of
Right,
versatility there. I think that's the right play here.
right.
Our trade situation wasn't great. So I think this is kind of the right move for us here is to
Yeah, I
take
agree with you.
Troy here. So we're gonna
Yes.
take him here.
So you number
There goes Jackson
24.
Powers. Darius, there you go. So now you kind of see how this board's falling a little bit.
Yep, yep. So it's
There you
funny.
go. JJ McCarthy went to New
Second
England.
round pick, yeah, out of New England. So I mean, if for New England, that's a nice little first couple of pickups. If that was a reality, you got JJ and then
Bo
you got
Nix went
Marvin
to the
Harrison.
Saints.
There's another quarterback off the board there with Bo. Yeah, so you're filling up this second round nicely. And
Okay,
here you
so
go.
here we go. We got two offers. Philly wants us, obviously. That's a long way to drop.
That is a
That's
long way
50
to
picks,
drop, man.
50 picks plus.
And they're
I'm
offering a
not taking
future.
that one.
No.
Now, this is
Interesting, yeah.
because now we drop 3 spots
And you
and we
move up
pick
quite a bit.
up a 123 and we move up from 192. I kind of like that.
I mean, that's a pretty good deal for us. Why do you think there's got to be something there
There's
that
somebody
Houston
here that the
wants
Texans
hard?
want that fills a need for them for us to drop 3
You
spots.
definitely got to take it.
I think we're taking this one.
Okay, so you take it.
We'll
See who
drop
they
3.
get.
There you go. They want
pick
to
up
get
Jackson. Defensive
Okay,
tackle.
so Minnesota's now come at us, and this is what I like about this
Yeah, it's cool.
trade simulator. It populates things based on needs and what the board's playing with. So Minnesota, again, we said we're not going to take any deals like that.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Again, Philly came back with us. They are offering Las Vegas a second for next year. We're going to reject it. We're going to reject both of these. We're going to stay and pick at 59. So look who's on the board at 59.
I mean, that's the thing, man.
This is the problem we ran into. This is what we've talked about is if Michael Penix is sitting there and they are able to get a second round pick, do you take Michael Penix here? Or
and he's this is a late in the second round. I mean, listen, you were high on Penix. So if you're sitting there, if you're the GM of the Seattle Seahawks,
I'm pulling the trigger.
You're pulling the trigger. So, when I look at it, if you look at what we got, I mean, for me, like we talked about with the Sam Howell situation, you just lost Drew Lock. You had to pivot and you had to do something. Like you said, John wants to go into the draft with that he doesn't have to panic. Like, oh, now I have to fill this role because. So you go out and you give up a third for Sam and you sort of fill that need. But we also talked about, hey, there's no reason why it doesn't mean you can't have 3 quarterbacks at camp, one being a rookie. Michael Penix has showed a lot of promise, man. What are you saying? What are you doing?
Are we playing this as we're the GMs or we're trying to think of what Joe?
Well, I mean, I think you're doing a bit of both. I think you're doing a bit of both because you got to think, you put yourself in John's shoes, but also it's John that's going to be drafting, right? So I guess what would you do, but also thinking, if he's at 59, does John take him?
I think if he's at 59 and he's gone through all of that, I think there's a high chance John takes him. I think there truly is because all the other top guys have gone at this point. He's gone through the ringer already once with most teams passing on him. And you look at the teams that are behind us, Buffalo, Detroit, Philly, San Fran, KC, none of them are going to touch him. And then we get into the next, Carolina's got their quarterback.
Right. They got a quarterback. Now Washington already picked.
The Giants are the only team that is in question on if they wouldn't take him again at that point. But they've already passed on him.
Yeah.
I think you kind of got to take Michael Penix here. I know we talked about how we weren't going to do that, but the way this board's fallen is unpredictable to me because I thought Michael Penix was going to be gone to the Raiders earlier on. I didn't expect them to A, trade up and take May.
Right.
B, I thought Michael Penix would have been gone up here somewhere with the Rams need a backup.
Sure.
Or,
earlier
the Giants would have taken him right there. So I'm kind of surprised that he's still here. I think we take him. What do you think?
I think so too, because you got your guard that you sort of were eyeing on from Washington there. So you're getting a stud there that, like you brought up some good points. If Lucas retires, you swing him out. If not, he's a day one starter. So you got that taken care of. So now I think you do. And you know what, talking with Rob and waiting for that perfect guy to fall in your lap. just not going to happen. Why don't you
No.
take this guy late in the second? I think it's a win-win because I see a ton of upside with this kid, and he doesn't have to start right away.
No, he doesn't. And this allows you, again, like we talked about earlier, Geno clears the book next year. You move on from him. You have Sam Howell and Michael Penix as your two quarterbacks going into next year.
Right.
All right.
All
So
right.
you
Draft him.
sold me. We're taking Michael Penix.
So here we go. Finishing up that
Linebacker. I like
second
Cedric
round. Yep.
Gray. There you go. Zach
There's
Zinter.
Zach Zinner.
Bam.
Okay. Cool.
So
Round
those
two.
two guys went.
Are you surprised at that? Zach Zinner round two.
I am a little surprised at that. I thought he would have lasted a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to kind of play around and see what we get. So we're going to come
We're
down
coming
here.
up. Yep.
Here we are. Okay, so we have an offer. Well, we are sure as hell not trading with the 49ers. I will
Sure as
never
hell not.
trade. Tennessee wants 106 for
Man, a future.
no,
No.
reject and reject. Okay.
Okay.
So,
So who's
you
on the
know
board here?
what?
Peyton Wilson, first up right
Peyton
there. We talked
Wilson's
about
here.
him.
I like
We
Peyton
talked about
Wilson.
him.
And
So do I.
I think, again, like we said, the linebacker situation, it kind of got resolved. But if you
Yep.
listen to John Schneider's comments on his show, it sounds like Jerome Baker's going to be the Will and Dotson's going to be the Mike. But
Right.
to me, I think that's leading the way that they talk that out. They are definitely planning on drafting a true Mike linebacker in this draft for Mike McDonald's defense. I think Peyton Wilson, yes, he's got some injury concerns. He's a dynamic linebacker. He flies
There it
around.
is.
Like, here's his description on him. Like,
Yep.
I just don't see how you don't take this guy. It's
Yeah, I
now a
like
third
it,
round
man.
pick. I like him. I think he fills a hole for us. We get a linebacker. I can go into the other inside linebackers. We can have a look. So there's, Edgerton Cooper. Now I do like Cooper as well from Texas A&M. I think
Yep.
he's an interesting guy. And then later on, if I can find him, Therese Knight is another guy I'm interested in, but we can get him way later. I think we take Peyton Wilson here because he's still sitting here. And a lot of mocks I've done, he's gone on the second round usually.
Yeah.
And I think, again, this is a guy that fell in our lap. We weren't anticipating to fall in our lap. Again, he's
Right.
projected as on the big board, number 71, and we're sitting here 10 picks later, and he's still sitting on the board.
All right. Yeah, let's
So,
pick him up then.
We're
I
going to
think
take
so
him
too.
here, and our next pick will be at 118. Or 102, sorry. I should
102.
say.
Yeah. So you kind of see who's coming off the board here. What do you want to
Green
see
Bay
as
took
far?
a punter. That was interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
there you go. Jeremiah Trotter went off. Blake Corum.
So you trying to get another interior here for the O line, or
so.
you're looking?
I think I'm looking interior O line here again to help us out with the guard spot, like Anthony Bradford. We're both not completely sold on him. So let's take a look at our guard market here. Brandon Coleman from TCU is interesting. He's a big boy, 6'4", 320. He was a left tackle, but he's more of a guard. He quickly sets up, like he said. The only problem is he's not a great finisher of blocks, and that was something I watched. Even in his tape, he's not really interesting. For me, McCormick here is an interesting guy. I look at him and I kind of go, maybe. There's Christian Mahogany, which we talked about. Leighton Robinson's interesting to me. He's a small area blocker. Like, he actually is a guard.
Yeah.
But he has an attitude. Like,
right.
Remember DJ Fluker?
Yeah.
That's who he reminds me of. And we've been missing that DJ Fluker
like
guy
him.
that just road grinds people. Like,
right.
You listen to Mike McDonald and even Ryan Grubb to an extent, they want to run the ball. They want to be a physical team.
For sure.
I think we take Leighton Robinson here.
Okay. Yeah, man.
All right. So we'll
let's pick
Robinson.
him up.
There you go.
So we're coming up.
Spencer Rattler.
Ooh.
New England took Spencer Rattler.
Wow. So they took two QBs.
They took two. So that tells you
that is interesting.
All right. So here we go. So now we're sitting back here.
So no trades.
No trades, no nothing.
You look at maybe defensive line. I'm
thinking maybe, yeah. I think it's maybe time we take a look at the edge market. So Cedric Johnson's there. Javon Solomon. He was a bit undersized, like they said. Let's see, what's our D tackle? I do like Mason Smith and Braden Fisk from Florida State. I think both those guys are, guys that would be good fits for us here. Again, this is kind of flip a coin. I think I'd rather take Braden Fisk
Right.
He fits again a little bit more of a kind of like what we want to do. He's a one gap defensive tackle, and he moves. Like we saw him at the
He had a hell of a
combine.
combine.
I think we take Braden Fisk here.
Okay, so let's pick him up, and we're moving right through this
We're up
fourth
again.
round, but we're
This
coming
is
up
where our trades
real.
helped us out. Now we're in
Yeah,
that
there
deep
you go.
back
You
draft we
accumulate some
wanted to be
picks.
in.
Yeah.
So let's see what our linebacker room looks like. So, I'm not too interested. You know what? You know what I'd really be interested in right now? We need a tight end because we've only got
Yeah.
two. Let's do the tight end. And there's a couple guys here I'm interested in. Cade Stover from uh, Ohio State's an interesting guy to me. Um, he's good. He's smart. He can block. He can, catch the ball. He's not a fast guy. We don't need that. We have Noah
Yeah.
Fant as our true receiving tight end.
Yeah.
Farrell Brown, he's kind of a mix of both. So he's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
perfect throw in there in that middle of it. I think we take him. And I think it'll definitely help us out in the long run to get our tight end here in the fourth.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're right, man. We're definitely short on that tight end group. So filling that gap a little bit and bringing in another guy makes a lot of sense. So we got to wait a few more
We're
picks here to
waiting a
get down
few more now. There's
179. We're jumping into round 5. So that's
yeah,
going to put us at the beginning of round 6.
about there. I'm tempted
Yes.
to propose a trade, but I'm just watching this market go right now. And I'm
Right.
looking at
Right.
defense. I want to see if there's anybody I'm super keen on that hasn't left yet. You know what? I'm okay in this. Like, I know John may make a move in here, try and get back into this fifth round.
Right.
I'm okay sitting. I want to look at the safety market. So there's some guys in here I still like. Cornerback room, edge. Yeah, there's still some edge guys I like Fatuni here or Brennan Jackson. Brennan Jackson, I think, is an interesting guy out of Washington State to take a
Right.
look at. Okay, so here we are, 235. So our team needs still say linebacker, OG, O center. Center, I think Olu's the guy, and they just signed Nick Harris to be the backup, so I
Yeah.
don't see them
Yeah.
addressing center in this right now. Um, kind of interested here. Kind of interested. There's part of me that is looking, okay, do we take uh, like again, like do we take a safety? Like I know we've signed
Man.
two, but Rayshon,
Signed to, I mean, you do have Jarek
yeah,
Reed coming
and
back
Kobe
from
Bryant. So maybe
injury,
we'll
Kobe
pass
Bryant. I
on
mean,
that.
I mean, really for me,
Is
man, I
linebacker
just
another
think I
spot?
just think get depth, man. Get depth on that in the trenches. You know what I mean? And I know I'm not sure at this point what you want to do, but it's kind of like,
I say we maybe look at it, we're 179 here. What's the offensive guard situation? Are we able to get anybody that we like? Not seeing Jared Kingston out of USC. He's not bad. He's a big boy. He can move.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, you know what? Maybe we do take a swing at another guard here because we don't really have anybody. Like we said, we're kind of in this weird situation where we don't have a true set of guards.
yeah.
Um, just, just I'm pondering here. This is the one thing. This is where it gets hard when you get down to this round 6, 7 area. Like you don't want to waste picks, but you also want to make sure that they're value. You're looking at special
Right,
team
totally.
guys. Um, you know what? Let's take
Uh,
Miles Murphy.
I
I
was
think
just looking
Miles.
at Miles Murphy's interesting. So
Yeah, let's take him here. Give ourselves another D tackle. We can't have too many of them. So we got one more pick here, 235. Do we go with another linebacker or do we go with an edge? I think that's one of the two areas we should look at here.
yeah, I mean, we already picked up a linebacker. Do you just go more depth here?
I think we
What do
have to
you
because you got to think outside of. So we got
you
Peyton
talking? Yeah, I
Wilson,
mean, you're talking depth. Yeah, I mean,
we
I would
got
maybe.
Patrick O'Connell and Drake Thomas, and
Okay.
they're special teams guys. When they played last year, nothing about them wowed me where I was like, yeah, you know what? Like maybe we got something here. Um, so this is gonna be interesting. Like I know we're kind of coming down here to the nitty-gritty of it. I'm kind of just wondering if we don't go either. I say it's either linebacker or edge we're going, one of the two.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like you said, I might lean what you were saying with linebacker just to bring in that extra guy and just kind of fill that room up a little more.
Well, you know what? I'm going to try and propose a trade here. I
Okay.
can't because we don't have any extra picks. Darn it. I
All right,
wish we
there
did.
you go. Done. You gotta
Okay.
sit there and gotta pick a guy. I
This is
mean, I
tough.
like you said, I agree. I mean, you could either go,
I'm either going to go Brennan Jackson here from Washington
well,
State,
you okay, yeah. I mean,
or I'm going to go Tyrese Knight from
okay.
UTEP.
Yeah, I mean, your call at this point, man.
I think we're going to go Tyrese. I honestly think because of
Filled
our
up that
line,
linebacker room. Fill
fill
up
out
the
that linebacker room. We're going to take Tyrese Knight. I'm now really liking this class that we were able to get. I think
it's
we
a
filled a lot of the holes.
I'd be happy if that was a class we got. I mean, I don't know if I see it exactly that way, but what we did tonight, that would I think you'd have to grade it pretty nicely. I mean, we're gonna get a grade here in a sec, right? But
I think the system grades it might not, but
maybe we don't. But
here's
let's
our
see the
look.
class.
So
Let's see the class.
here's our class, everyone.
Yeah, there's your
We were
draft.
able to take pick 16,
Yep.
move back to 24. So we went into this, missing some picks. We were able to acquire some back. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 selections. And realistically, we filled out the trenches in the linebacker room. The only offensive weapons or offensive players we took were a couple guards, uh, Penix and Stover. And we all know Seattle does a hell of a job in UF free agency with the draft, the UDFAs.
Yeah.
So, I think they'd find some guys. But if you look at our team, receiver, defensive back, we're pretty set in those positions. Running
Yep.
back, we're pretty set.
Yep.
I think based off this draft, if Seattle came out with this looking of a draft, I'd be okay with that.
I I think it's honestly, I would be so pumped on this draft. I mean, you get your guard there. Penix is a guy like, man, it's gonna be crazy if he falls that deep.
If he falls
And
all the way to 59, I don't see
oh
a way
my god,
Seattle
and
doesn't
I
take him.
like Peyton. I like Peyton Wilson. You know, you and I have talked about him on this show. So those first three, you're like, we potentially have a quarterback for the future.
Yeah.
We got a nice guy that can slide in and out on that O line. And then Peyton Wilson, man, you kind of here's a guy that could start at some point, and then you switch down like Fisk, a guy I've just like his athleticism, is everything about him. And then even in the later rounds with Miles Murphy, I mean, you just look at this overall, and then Kate Stover for the tight end filled up that tight end room a little bit. I mean, everything I'm looking at, I'd come out of this like, okay, we nailed another draft.
No, 100%. And that's definitely how I look at it is if I'm looking at this, we nailed our draft. We got what we needed. We came in, we moved around a little bit. We were able to take advantage of that moving around, and some guys fell to us that we weren't expecting. Um, and you know what? If that's the class that Seattle were to say walk out with, I don't know too many fans that are going to be too upset about the fact that we walked out, like you said, with our potential QB of the future. We walked out with a starting guard right off the bat that's going to start and be impactful day one, that can move to tackle if we need to based on Abe Lucas's health. We got our linebacker of the future at Mike, or potential starter even this year. Layden Robinson, I really like him as a guard that can come in and compete right away to play. So you potentially see potentially 3 starters out of that initial group, with Michael Penix pushing to be the number 2.
Yep.
Braden Fisk, rotational guy. He gives now, again, this makes it interesting. If you get a Braden Fisk, what do you do with Hankins?
Right.
Because now this
Right.
is where that becomes an interesting thing. We've been able to fill a role to bring in a guy like that. Cade Stover comes in. He possibly is the number 2 tight end, number 3 tight end. Miles Murphy, again, another big D tackle. Like, this is where, there's chances that, us drafting a Braden Fisk and a Miles Murphy all of a sudden makes Jarren Reed and Hankins expendable.
Yeah.
Because they're on rookie contracts, and we can get some cap, space out of letting those guys go. And then, like we said, Tyrese Knight comes in. Tyrese Knight's someone they've already had a visit with, Seattle. And again, he's a potential guy that could come in and be, we could be talking about next year. Jerome Baker and Dodson have moved on, and it's Peyton Wilson and Tyrese Knight are our 2 linebackers next year in the middle of that defense. So I think we address some needs. Obviously, people are going to have their opinions on it, which we welcome everyone. We welcome your guys' comments and stuff on the channel with our mock draft and stuff. So yeah, no, I honestly am happy with this.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. This is the cool thing about doing this because we've done two now on the show, a pre-free agency and a post. And the pre-free agencies, it is what it is. It's pre, it's you're jumping the gun a little bit, but it's kind of fun because you're saying, hey, these are our needs right now before we've done anything in free agency. Now that free agency settled down, and then you sort of see how the team's shaping up a little bit. We're 4 weeks out of the draft. You're starting to get a little more serious about this and be like, okay, this is actually could be a reality. Now, the way we did it and moving down from and accumulating a couple more picks, something John does quite a bit too. So, and that's exactly what we did here. So, I mean, like you said, like we reiterated, if this is something that, we can sort of, obviously it's not going to look exactly like that, but we checked a lot of boxes off in this draft. And I would be so happy if we got the players we even in reality that we just did off this mock. So, yeah, that would really give me confidence kind of coming into camp with all the new young guys and how this team, you start envisioning this, and you got a quarterback that you can get kind of excited about in the future, and just every piece there, right? So
Yep.
yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. So I mean, looking at that I'm going to grade that an A overall.
For me, I would say that if we walked out with that draft class, I still think there's some gaps in it, but I would say we're B plus A kind of area
Right,
with it.
right.
Some people may feel different. Some people may
Yeah,
think, hey, now that we have Sam Hall, don't even touch a quarterback.
sure.
For us, when Michael Penix and the value is there, the late second round, almost third round, to grab a quarterback that could potentially be QB of the future, I don't see how you pass on it. You got to take that swing, and I don't think there'd be too many fans out there that would be upset if that was our swing. So yeah, we'll see how what our listeners and subscribers think of the most recent mock draft, and we will definitely give you guys a couple more as we get closer to this draft coming up in April.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, coming up, we're gonna have Jackson Bevis coming up on the next episode too. So we had him on from Cigar Thoughts a couple months back. So he's returning. So you guys want to check out that as well, because we're gonna talk draft with him, obviously, and kind of get his thoughts on, maybe what he thinks of some of the holes that we need now that free agency is over, and touch base with him, obviously, who we've got in who we've signed during free agency too. So that's coming up. But yeah, man, as far as tonight's concerned, just wanted to kind of give you guys another mock, touch on some of the trenches and kind of the area of need. And that's really the focus here coming up, is what are the biggest areas of need? What can we fill up? And yeah, what's this team going to start sort of looking like here? Because after the draft, man, you're going to have a really, really good idea what kind of team that you're going to be looking at come the season here. So that's it for us tonight, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Have a good one. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.